Welcome back. In this and in the next video, I want to talk about something different. We attacked different machines from Windows machines to Linux machines, but in these two videos, I want to show you that you can also target your own router or the router from the network that you're attacking. Now, it might seem that it is not that important to test your router, but once you gain access to the router, you pretty much have the control over the entire network. And not only that gaining access to the router is powerful in means that you can change different network settings, that you can forward different ports and so on, the routers are also the easiest devices to hack. You might be asking, why? Well, because usually 90% of home routers and home devices have default login passwords. The vendors who provide homes with their routers never really change the default password, and default password is something that you can find on the internet. These default password attacks we're going to check out in the next tutorial, but for this one I want to show you a cool tool that you can use to test on your own router to check out whether it is vulnerable to some exploits. So just type in your search bar Routersploit and it will lead you to this GitHub link where we will have our Routersploit tool. Now we already know how to download all of these GitHub tools, so let's copy the link straight away, navigate to our desktop, and we can git clone Routersploit. While this is copying, let's go down to the installation commands just to see how we can install this tool properly, and here we have installation of Kali Linux and all of the commands that we must run. So we must install python3.pip, even though I believe we already have this. Let's run the command just to make sure, and it requires root privileges, so let's enter the root account first and let's type the same command, apt-get install python3.pip. Everything is installed. Let's move on to the next command. We already did the git clone. Let's change the directory to Routersploit. And the next command is python3 and then install the requirements. As we can see inside of the Routersploit directory, we have requirements.txt file. And whenever you have this requirements.txt, we already know that we must run this command to install all of the requirements from that file. Let's press enter. As soon as it installs all of these files that it needs, we should be ready to run the Routersploit tool, which is this rsf.py. Okay, so everything has finished, and let's python3 rsf.py. And you will notice that once you run this tool, it will open something that looks similar to the MSF console. We get this command line type, and here we can execute different commands. It says right here that it has 132 exploits, 4 scanners, 171 credential attacks, 4 generic attacks, 32 payloads, and 6 encoders. Now, to check out all of the available commands, we can run help command, and it will tell us how to use a certain module, how to execute a shell command argument, and here we can also search for different tools. Now if I type search scanners, it will give us all of the 4 scanners that it has. And in this video, we're going to use this AutoPWN scanner. This will test for all the exploits from the Routersploit tool onto our target router to see whether it is vulnerable to any one of them. So let's type use scanners and then AutoPWN. Once you select it, you can type help, or pardon me, you can type show options, the same way that we do inside of the MSF console, and the only thing that we must set is target IP address. To do that, we can type set target 192.168.1.1. This is the router in my case. If you want to check out your gateway or your router, you can type the command netstat-nr, and under the gateway, you will have the IP address of your gateway. Once you check it out, type it right here, and as soon as you set your IP address, you can type run. As it says, it will start the vulnerability check, and it will go through all of these exploits and see whether your router is vulnerable to any one of them. If you have this minus sign, that means that the router is not vulnerable. If you have this star sign, that means that router exploit cannot really determine whether your router is vulnerable to this security threat. As it says right here, it could not be verified. And if you have a plus sign, which we don't have at the moment, that means it found a security vulnerability for your router. In my case, I believe I don't have any at the moment, but you might find some vulnerability for the router. Let's wait for this scan to finish. And it is done. It says could not confirm any vulnerability and it couldn't find default credentials. And this part right here is not exactly true. We're going to check out default credentials in the next video. However, you can test these exploits with the router exploit tool. You can also check out these ones that says could not verify exploitability. This could possibly mean that they are vulnerable to these attacks, or this exploit is simply just not the type of exploit that targets your router. Okay, now that we covered the router exploit tool, we're going to see how we can gain access to the router with the default credentials vulnerability that at least 70 to 80% of home routers have. See you in the next video.